How do your nostrils work? Is the question that I will answer by the end of this show. Hello and welcome to another episode of The More You Know Mondays. The more you know, the more you grow, and this week on the show I will be talking about Wilson Samuel Jackson. But before I get into that, you know what we have to do. We have to start the show with some positive vibes in the form of positive affirmations, and I do that every week in the form of a quote. If you're new here, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us for more random facts and interesting events in time, in history, or just recent history, or now, Just the more you know, the more you grow, and that's all you need to know about the show, really. So, without further ado, this week's quote is by Mel Robbins, and if you are familiar with the show, like a returning listener, you would know that I have used the Mel Robbins quote before. Not that that matters, because all quotes, if motivational and inspirational, should be shared. So this quote goes I was about to say without further ado again, but what I mean to say is this quote goes like this: the more you practice self-acceptance, the more you realize the only person whose acceptance you ever needed is your own. And I find this quote very motivational and interesting, more maybe inspiring than anything, in the sense of it makes you think that we live this life, especially in this maybe social media time, or more than anything, where everything we kind of share and post, especially if it's photos of yourself, what the end game of what you truly want from the post, if you really think about it, if you're just sharing for sharing's sake, then you're not really thinking about this too much. But if you're sharing and you feel maybe, offended or upset if you don't get any likes on the photo, or you don't get as many likes on this photo compared to another photo, then maybe this applies to you more, in the sense of you're posting it for the gratification that it gives you from getting the likes and the appreciation from other people, which is, on the base level, there's nothing essentially wrong with that. Where the problem, I guess, comes, or in my opinion, would be maybe the level of acceptance you have for yourself and your self-esteem because of how other people may view you. So say, for example, you posted a picture yesterday of yourself and it got 5 likes, or I'm just thinking, I don't know how many likes. This is a hypothetical situation. So let's say 50,000 likes. And then the next day you post a picture of yourself and it only gets 10,000 likes. It doesn't mean that that picture was any less appealing, or you're no longer... I feel like this is a really touchy subject, but at the same time, it's something that should be addressed. You hold the keys to your own destiny, in the sense of what you put out there into the world is what you bring back to yourself. So subconsciously, however you may feel, or however angry you might be about something, what the things that you see, or the type of people that you may attract to your life may be on those same crazy levels, but it's because of your mindset of what you're thinking about, or what you're putting out there into the universe. Because what you put out there comes back to you. You can't expect to put out one thing and expect another thing to come back to you. That it doesn't work like that. If you have to put out what you want to receive, otherwise you can't really hope to receive it, or hope for it to materialize in your life. But who am I to say anything, you know? I'm just a random guy speaking through a microphone. I only have, 29 years of experience in life. Like, I don't know much, but from my limited experience, that's my opinion, experience. From my limited experience, from my limited, I'm not going to cut this out because I'm going to get there in the end. From my limited experience, that is my opinion. So if I had to sum up everything, I think the sum up of the whole quote of what you really need to take away from it is that don't always look to other people to accept you for who you are. If you accept yourself, that should be enough. I know in reality, living life, that it's not always enough for you to accept yourself. You do need, or as humans, we want validation. But it helps to have validation on things just so that we don't feel so alone. I know that personally, you know. You might go through something and it may feel like the whole world is against you and no one understands. But I guarantee in a world of, I think it's 7.6 billion people who live in the world, like, there has to be someone else out there that's gone through the same struggles that you've gone through and that can relate to what you're going through. So you're never as alone as you think you are. But yeah, trust yourself more. That's what I guess you should take away from this. But at the end of the day, my opinion means nothing. So take it or leave it. If you found any meaning or understanding from my rambles and my fumbles of words, I hope it helps motivate you throughout your day and in your life. And without further ado, we'll get into the show and talk about Wilson Samuel Jackson. So I was looking up interesting Black British heroes just for this episode and future episodes, and I stumbled upon this really interesting website which anyone that's interested should definitely check out. It's called blackhistorymonth.org.uk, and on the website, as well as having an array of information that you should definitely check out, there's like tabs for education, fostering and adoption, like there's jobs on there, they have opinions, interviews, like you name it, like Black History, the UK, they've got it. Another interesting like section that they have on here is a section called Great Black Britons, which is a source that I'm gonna be looking into for, like I said, future episodes. And underneath the section of that, you can kind of go into like sporting heroes, music heroes, science and medicine, like just loads of interesting sections, Great Black Britons, and so I was in the Great Black Britain section, and I stumbled upon this article that was written by Molly and Polly Jackson, who are the daughters of Wilson Samuel Jackson. And it was just really interesting, this article, so I just thought I would do more more research into who he was, and like kind of what was happening around the time, and if there was kind of any interesting events within his life that could have happened. And I found some interesting things, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. So Wilson Samuel Jackson, who was known as Bill to his friends, was born in Jamaica in the parish of Portland, and he was born in 1927. What was most interesting for me about Mr. Jackson was like, not only his name had Samuel Jackson in it, so it's kind of like the actor, but he was also the first black train driver in Great Britain, which is something obviously not many people would know about. Me, for starters, I had no idea, which brought me into the subject even more, and I was just like, well, who is this guy? Like, first black train driver, I need to know more. So he was, like I said, he was born in Jamaica, and when he was 17 years old, his father, who was 45, died suddenly. And that was really unfortunate for Wilson at the time, who really wanted to be a dentist. And that's where his dreams lied. Another interesting comparison, where I work in dentistry, and I was just like, oh, he wanted to be a dentist, but unfortunately he wasn't able to, because of his father passing away. So from that, he decided that he was going to move to England. And when he moved to England, he needed a job. So for work, he helped rebuild London after the devastation from the Second World War. So he arrived in London in 1952. And the craziest thing for him at the time when he arrived was the blatant racism that he never experienced when he was in Jamaica. But regardless of how he was treated, he was determined to become a train driver. Now, in those days, as you can imagine, there wasn't really many black train drivers, if any, to be honest. And it was maybe amongst the people, the black railway workers, it was kind of an unspoken rule that the job of a train driver was reserved for white people only. But despite that, Wilson Samuel Jackson didn't really care about the odds. He was never late. He always arrived on time, never missed a day. And for years, he was on this regime of always on time, never late, never missing a day. And although there was maybe chatter amongst his fellow colleagues about, well, we work on the railway, but like there's this lack of opportunity for us to go up the ranks. So we know we can probably only stay here, but Wilson was ready to beat any challenge. He didn't care of the odds. He knew what he wanted, and he was going to achieve that. So, in the year 1962, he passed the exam to become a fully fledged locomotive driver. Passed the test for flying colours. And with that, he became the first black train driver. I think it's also important to mention that before he became a train driver, he was a fireman. I was reading it in the description, not in the description, in my research, and I wasn't kind of 100% sure of what it meant, so I was doing some deeper looking, and I finally understand basically what it is. So I think what a fireman is in the train service is like kind of your second man. So it was back in the days of steam trains, so I assume the fireman was the person to... What do I mean I assume? I know. I know that the fireman is the person who would be tending to the coal and making sure basically the train was still running. So that's basically what he did before he became a train driver. So he was still in the box, in the room, helping the train run, the steam train run. It was back in those days, steam train, steam power and everything. But anyway, another interesting story that I found, or I found from my research, was that he was, obviously, it was not well loved from all of his fellow white train drivers that Wilson was now a train driver like them. Obviously, I want to say that things have got better, and they have got better from what they were maybe 50, 60 years ago, but racism is still very much a thing. That being said, they, like I said, they were both, some were happy, some were not so happy, some were very surprised, but, you know, that's what we're here to do, surprise people. Everyone's here to surprise people, I mean. And the interesting story was that on Mr. Jackson's first day as a train driver, when he came in, he was congratulated by the white foreman that was on duty, who congratulated him on achieving this role as the train driver, and told him to, you know, get your train ready to go, get started to go out. So he was there, you know. I don't know what train drivers do or what they did, but he was there fixing and making sure the train was ready to go out that day. And his allotted fireman, who was white, came in and told Mr. Jackson that he was not going to work with him. The fireman then repeated his decisions to the foreman, and the foreman turned round and said to him, well, you might as well go home then, because you no longer have a job here. Completely shocked by his foreman even saying what he said. Obviously, he was expecting it to go the complete other way. But I was thinking about it. It's kind of like if you hit a home run, and in baseball, I'm not American, but I assume I understand the game of baseball, only because, like, in the UK we play a game called softball, and it's pretty much the same concept of baseball. But anyway, so like I assume that like it's like you hit a home run as a baseball batsman. You knock it out of the park, so you think. You run all the way around all the blocks, the home spaces, and you get to the final home after you run all the way around. Like I said, don't know the sport. Just going to try and get this metaphor out or reference. And, like I said, you run all the way around, you run home, and then the referee's like blowing his whistle and he looks at you, it's just like, oh yeah, foul ball. And you're just like, what? But you saw how I knocked it out of there. Yeah, it was a foul ball, man. Sorry. I don't know if that metaphor made sense, but it's still like peak at the same time. If as a person you only make a decision to do something because you think it's going to go a certain way, and that's how the fireman thought it was going to go, or that's not how the fireman thought it was going to go. He thought it was going to go a completely other way, or maybe he didn't care. Maybe he was trying to stand up for some kind of weird movement that he thought he was a part of by going against this, or going against his train driver superior, who happened to be a black man. Anyway, the fireman, after being told by the foreman that he could go home because he no longer has a job, then turned round and went back to Mr. Jackson and said that he was prepared to work on the engine, and asked if it was okay if he could work with Mr. Jackson. To which Mr. Jackson replied to him saying that he doesn't have a problem with him. Oh, sorry, I should do this the other way around. Mr. Jackson then said, I don't have a problem with you. It is you who has a problem with me. If you do your job well, we'll get along fine. Which is pretty much the definition of life and work anyway, you know. Despite my differences or whatever I think, at the end of the day, that shouldn't affect who I'm able to work with. Because as long as I can do a good job, at the end of the day, someone else's thoughts, facts, or feelings, or their thoughts, as long as you can do the job and you can be respectful to me, I couldn't really care too much about your actual thoughts and feelings towards me. As long as you can do the job correctly, you can do it straight, then we don't really have to have a problem unless you make a problem, and then we have a problem. But for the most part, I don't really have many problems with anyone. So, if you work with me, don't really be worried that I'm slyly in the background harboring a grudge against you. Because it's not true. I don't. It's all peace and love out here. But that aside, another interesting fact connected to Wilton Samuel Jackson was the Lewisham rail crash, which happened on the evening of December 1957. It was when two trains crashed in dense fog on the southern eastern main line near Lewisham, which is in southeast London, for anyone that doesn't know. So in this collision, there was 90 people who died and 173 people who were injured. And from what I understand from reading the information, which you can look up and find for yourself, is, because I'm just summarizing it, is basically that one of the trains had stopped at a signal which was underneath a bridge. Sorry, a train underneath a train. You know, so there was a signal that was underneath a bridge. That an electrical train to Hayes had stopped underneath the bridge, and I think it was something to do with the fog, because obviously the train couldn't see. Then the train behind that I assume they never saw a signal, or they hadn't seen anything. Obviously they never saw the signal because the train in front had seen the signal and stopped, and then obviously maybe blocked it for the train behind. Anyway, the train behind bumped into the train in front, and the collision caused the horrific crash. Now, what I found interesting was when I was on the internet doing my research, I found the website wilsonsamueljackson.co.uk, and I went to the newspaper article. So I found this article that is dated Monday the 5th October 1964, and there's multiple accounts from the Evening Standard, or reports from the Evening Standard, talking about how two people came out of the wreckage alive. These are just the headlines that I'm reading. 2 trapped in the wreckage, freed by firemen. Trains cancelled. Apologies for rail hold up. And it says that Wilson Samuel Jackson and his firemen were caught in the crash. Now, it says that Mr. Jackson's leg was injured, and his second man, who was an 18-year-old man by the name of John Sygrove, was also injured, and they were both taken out of the train crash to hospital, and they both survived, which is fantastic. Around the time Wilson Samuel Jackson was 37 years old at the time of the crash. But yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting that not only did he make history by being the first black train driver, but he was also in the Lewisham rail crash and survived. Now, unfortunately, Wilson Samuel Jackson passed away on the 15th of September 2018 at the age of 91. And in acknowledgement of his achievements, there was a commemorative blue plaque that it was exhibited in the offices at King's Cross train station. Unfortunately, this went up a year before his death, so sadly he wasn't able to see it go up. But regardless of that, his legacy will always go on, especially now I know about it. It'd be an interesting fact that I know that I would tell more people about, and I have done in this show. So I really hope you've enjoyed learning more about Wilson Samuel Jackson, and you go out there and do more of your own research if you're interested in finding out more. But at the start of this show, I had a question that I posed for you, that I said that I would give you at the end of the show, and since we have reached there, I believe it's only time that I share the findings or the answers of how your nostrils work. Now, I guess maybe this could be this could be seen as a kind of a weird question, because obviously, you know, your nostrils work how your nostrils work. You breathe in air through your nostrils, and you also breathe out air through your nostrils. And most people would probably think that both nostrils work at the same time. When you're breathing, which is kind of a conscious or subconscious process, subconscious maybe, because it's something you don't really think about, it just happens. So when you're breathing in and out through your nose, this is a little known fact, but you actually, throughout the day, breathe through one nostril more than the other. And then every couple of hours, you change to using the other nostril. You change to using the other nostril. So for, I don't know, say from 9 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock, you might be using the left side more than the right side to breathe in. But then at 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock, you start using the right side more than the left side, and it just keeps alternating throughout the day. So this nasal cycle is dictated on the same automated nervous system that regulates your heart rate or your digestive system and other unconscious bodily functions. And that is the reason why that when you get your nose blocked, like, do you ever notice that when you get your nose blocked that, like, sometimes it will feel like one side is more blocked than the other? Well, that's the reason why. Because your nasal cycle is you breathing out of one side more than the other one for a certain amount for a certain amount of time, and then switching. So that's how your nostrils work, and that's why one of your nostrils always gets more blocked than the other one. And there you go. The more you know. Well, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this show on Wilson Samuel Jackson, the first black train driver in Great Britain. And if you have enjoyed it, thank you for listening, getting all the way through and finding out more about these facts and stuff. And go out there and find out more about Wilson Samuel Jackson. And also, if you are interested in finding out more about Black British heroes and you didn't know where to go before, definitely check out blackhistorymonth.org.uk. I'm not getting sponsored by them. I just thought it was a really cool resource, and if you're interested, you might find it useful also. So yeah, check it out, find out more, and I will catch you all on the next show next week. And before I go, I hope you have a lovely week and enjoy your Monday if you listen to this on a Monday, and if not, enjoy whatever day you are on when you're listening to this. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.